Goeiemorgen. Good morning, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. How do you destroy property prices in South Africa? You make a speech like Cyril Ramaphosa made last week in Cape Town. It's not just farms that are going to be targeted anymore. And let's hear it from the horse's mouth. This is from an article dated 28th of February 2019. Cyril Ramaphosa speaking in Cape Town. White-owned property in South African cities and towns will be seized along with white farms in order to provide high-density housing for blacks. And whites are to blame for the country's collapsing train services, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced. Yeah. You see how the whites are always to blame? You know, you don't maintain your train services, but no, it's the whites who are to blame. What a load of crap. Anyway, carrying on. Addressing a meeting of traditional leaders in the Cape Town City Hall on Wednesday this week, as part of the ANC's election campaign, Ramaphosa also blamed apartheid, read whites, for African backwardness and the fact that blacks are always poor. You know, talk about passing the buck. It was because of the white government that the Africans got an education. Probably the worst possible thing in retrospect that the whites did during the apartheid era was educate the blacks, because that's how they have actually learnt about Western ways, and then they've just corrupted it and made sure that they can just feed from the trough being money. And that's your politicians and bureaucrats who've got an education of sorts, but it's not great. Continuing on. Land and cities and towns must be identified for seizure without compensation, upon which high-demand housing can be developed as the ordinary South Africans can live close to their places of work, Ramaphosa told the meeting. Apartheid distributed people outside of the major cities. The poor lived outside the cities and the rich inside them, he continued. Just like other world cities, South Africa had to develop high-density housing on the city and town centres, and the government was going to use the seizure of land without compensation programs to identify suitable land within the urban areas. Now, you know whose songbook he's singing from? The one Julius Malema of the EFF. This is all about votes for the coming election. This has got nothing to do with thinking clearly. This is going to absolutely implode property prices right across the spectrum, from flats going through to farmlands. It is absolutely ridiculous what he's proposing here. He goes on to say, this is going to reduce the living costs of the poor, who will then not have to travel so far to their places of work. This is the first open confirmation that it is not just farms which are going to be seized under the no compensation rules scheduled to be introduced in March this month, but also white properties in urban areas. Ramaphosa went on to blame whites for the collapsing railway infrastructure in South Africa, even though the ANC has ruled the country for the last 25 years. You know, as we've said so many times here, when something goes pear-shaped in South Africa, you point the bone at the whites, even though it's blatantly untrue. And this is a perfect classic example of it. He acknowledged that the public transport infrastructure was very poor and that it cost the South African economy dearly. He undertook to pull the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, PRASA, right, after a new series of criminal corruption scandals recently shocked the state-owned rail net transportation system. Why are we surprised? I mean, corruption is a middle word of all politicians, isn't it? They're all absolutely corrupt. And with the Guptas, who've been let off the hook, because remember the charges against Cyril Ramaphosa's son were dropped, even though the dodgy 500 million rand that was given to him under the Basasa scheme. You know, the judicial system in South Africa is so cactus that the politicians and the senior bureaucrats and the well-connected can now do what they like, rort the system, and they can do it without any judgment being brought against them. But they'll always find some little petty bureaucrat, then they'll bring down the full force of the law and say, well, there you go, you see, we do look after people who are corrupt, we do put them behind bars. What a load of crap. Anyway, closing off what Ramaphosa says, he says, some train stations in the townships, the black suburbs, are closed. People do not use them anymore because of crime and the unreliability of the train system, Ramaphosa told the meeting, adding that this too was due to the heritage of apartheid, read Whites, which left us with poor public transport systems. You know, Ramaphosa is a complete and utter idiot. And, you know, you just have to go on YouTube and type any town or city in South Africa, and you'll see 90% of the video clips, in fact, probably about 99% of the video clips, are people desperate to sell their properties. And this is exactly why. And, you know, property is a major core asset of any person's equity. And he's totally hamstrung that by his utterances in the lead up to this election. Anyway, guys, look, please have a great day, and remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Bye for now.